Former naval aviator Brian Sunshine Sinclair joins us now to further discuss this incident. Sunshine, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. Just for the folks at home's benefit,
Sure.
How many carrier landings would you estimate you've made in your illustrious career?
Just under 600, Paul.
And you remember those, I suspect, right?
I really remember the night ones, to be honest with you. Yeah.
All right. So, listen, I know that I'm putting you on the spot here, but
Sure.
you've been around the yard a little bit. Can you tell us what might have led to an accident like this?
Absolutely, Paul. So there are several probable causes, if you will. So the first one that came to my mind was a ramp strike where the aircraft impacted the back of the round down or the back of the flight deck. So possibility there. Or, as you know, there are wires that help the aircraft to stop. There's a chance that on landing that the wire actually snapped and the plane would have dribbled off the front. But if you look at the announcements or the press releases from the Navy, they use specific words. If you kind of analyze that, another possibility is that during a wave off where they decided they're lined up to land, instead they decide to go around, they actually don't have enough power and they fall out of the sky. And the Navy called it crash landing on the flight deck. So there's a chance that it could have, the pilot could have just ejected and the plane fell out of the sky onto the flight deck, then dribbled off the front. And so I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to put my money on that one. But once again, the Navy officials, they have all the evidence and they're conducting their official investigations. And these are just the words of a washed up pilot.
All right. Well, hardly washed up in our eyes. So I guess where I want to go with this next is the map, because the location of this incident is significant, is it not?
It absolutely is. So the Carl Vinson was out there with the Abe Lincoln actually doing dual carrier ops, and they're exercising their freedom of navigation, as we call it, international waters. Now, if you look at the map there, you're going to see kind of a pinkish area. So that's the South China Sea, and China is claiming all of that. And as you can imagine, well, let me back up a little bit. South China Sea is very important for global shipping. About a third of the global shipping passes through there. It turns out to be about $3 trillion worth of trade every year. So, and traditionally international waters are defined as 12 miles off the coast of whatever, nearby country it is. But because of all the importance on the global stage for the South China Sea, China has said, hey, we own this whole thing. And there are many disputed territorial claims with Vietnam, Brunei, the Philippines, and Taiwan especially.
Have we ever lost an F-35 in the water before?
We haven't, Paul, but back in 2019, the Japanese did. Unfortunately, the pilot became disoriented at night, flew into the water. Unfortunately, he did not make it, and the plane broke up into many, many pieces, so it wasn't salvageable. And then actually, as recent as last November, the British Royal Navy lost an F-35B in the Mediterranean as it was taking off. It had sucked in, unfortunately, some rain cover, basically, and it went into the ocean, and the U.S. was instrumental in helping Britain to recover or salvage the F-35.
Hey, guys, I'm losing my IFB. If you can help me out, switch out one out. So this image that I'm looking at right now, is that from one of those incidents, or is this the plane in question?
This is purported to be the plane in question. This popped up on social media yesterday. Kind of looks like one of the, perhaps one of the sailors on the catwalk or something like that, snapped the picture, and then off it went to Facebook. So, but anyway, as best I can tell, that is our F-35C from VFA 147.
Well, it looks remarkably intact. How does one recover? I assume they don't float for very long. So how does one recover something from the floor of the ocean or floor of the sea?
Yeah, so the Navy's been doing it for a while, and they have it down to a science. They actually have a division called the Salvage Operations Division, and they launched, which the viewers see there, several different deep drones. So it can go down to up to 20,000 feet. It's controlled by a wire, if you will, from the surface, obviously. And they use sonar and cameras to locate the downed aircraft, and then from there they'll basically strap wires to it, and they'll have a ship over top of it, obviously up on the surface there with very powerful cranes, and they can recover it. And the Navy salvage operations actually, back in 2019, they recovered a carrier onboard delivery aircraft from the Philippine Sea called the C-2. It was down 3 miles, Paul, and they were able to pull it back up. And then recently, as in last year, the Navy, that is, with the Salvage Operations Division, completed a record salvage that was down. It was a Navy helicopter, the MH-60, and they were able to pull it up from over 3.5 miles deep in the ocean.
So as we this is not your father's jet fighter. I mean, this is it's a pretty sophisticated plane, is it not? Sophisticated enough that our opponents would want to retrieve this, would they not?
They would, Paul. So we call this a 5th-generation fighter. It's the latest, greatest, cutting-edge kind of thing. And while the Chinese have their own version as well as the Russians, I could see a giant boon to Chinese intelligence if they were to go and just pluck it off the ocean, because that way they can see how the other guy does it, if you will. So I could see a lot of interest there. And then yesterday at a press conference, the Chinese Foreign Ministry Department said, quote, that they have no interest in the aircraft and they just want to ensure that there's peace and stability in the region. But I get that. That's nice. But once again, I could see a giant boon to the intelligence agency by having them scoop up one of our 5th-generation fighters.
So, I mean, we could have had, because of the plane, we could have had a real-life Red October, except instead of a submarine, it would have been an F-35, right?
Yeah, you know what, Paul? I would almost call it, think of Red October meets the Abyss when it comes to this guy. Yeah.
Well, thankfully, if that image is accurate, then the plane is back with us, and we don't have to worry about espionage and whatnot.
Absolutely. For national security, I sure hope that we're able to recover it in a timely fashion.
And as long as the pilot's safe and those sailors recover, well, then, we can always build another F-35, right, Brian?
That is so true. The aircrew are not replaceable, or the personnel, but the aircraft are. I agree, Paul. Great point.
Sunshine, thank you for doing this on short notice. You're always a good sport. It's very much appreciated.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure. Take it easy, Paul.
All right. Have a good